Welcome to the Balanced Blueprints podcast, where we discuss the optimal techniques for finances and health, and then break it down to create an individualized and balanced plan. I'm your host, Justin Gaines, here with my co-host, John Prober. In this week's episode, John, we are going to talk about how to ladder CDs, why you ladder them, and why the interest rate on those CDs isn't the most important thing to consider when you're doing it. So I sat down with a client this week and we were working with setting up their retirement plans, setting up their emergency funds, and just planning on how to put themselves in a firm position to be able to retire successfully and not have any concerns. But part of the issue that comes up when we start doing that is determining how much money can we put towards retirement and how much money do we need to have liquid so that if we have an emergency now, pet gets sick, kid gets sick, car breaks down, you lose your AC in your house or the heat, the furnace goes, how do you make sure that you have enough money to cover that? And at the same time, not make it so that that money's not working for you. And there's a few different ways to do this, depending on the individual's financial intelligence. Financial IQ score determines which route we go. So somebody who's very familiar with money and knows how to turn lumps of money into income streams, you can just take the money, put it into a high yield savings and roll with it. And what we're talking about here is your 6-month savings money, your liquid assets. So we're not talking about what you're putting into your Roth, annuities, life insurance, all your other investment vehicles. We're strictly talking about, we know how much money we need to have liquid, which generally speaking at a minimum is 6 months of liquidity. How do we make sure that that money's not just sitting there and losing value because of inflation? So if you have a high financial IQ, you can just put it into a high yield savings. You'll be getting a solid interest rate, let it sit there. As you have things come up, you can just take a loan against that money. And I say a loan because you don't want to take the money out and then never put it back. You want to take the money out, continue to put it back. So you can take that loan out against that money, spend it, and then put the money back. Most people, though, don't know how to take their 6-month savings and if they lose their job, turn it into monthly income. There are a lot of people, a lot of clients that I see that lose their job. They start to think, okay, I don't really need to think about work right now because I got fired through no fault of my own. I have unemployment money coming in. I have a 6-month savings. So like realistically, I could just not do anything, relax, recharge. I have 6 months of money sitting here. The problem is that if you have full access to that, and it's just a true nest egg sitting there, you may deplete that faster than 6 months. The other thing to think about is if you are depleting that, you had to work really hard to get it there. And you don't want to just deplete it for the sake of depleting it. You want it to be there for a future event if the future event happens. And so what we do with individuals that haven't been taught as much about money is we'll do what's called CD laddering. And all that means is you buy a CD, you buy several CDs, and eventually what you're going to end up with is 6 CDs that come due. One comes due every 6 months. And what this allows...
What's a CD?
Oh, what's a CD? Fair enough.
Because I keep thinking of videos.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. Slow my roll here a little bit. So CD, certificate deposit.
Okay.
All a CD is it's effectively an account with the bank that is tied up for however long that CD is. So in this case, we're going to be talking about 3 and 6 month CDs, which means they're tied up. You don't have access to them for 3 months or 6 months. And in exchange, you're given an interest rate from the bank. It's typically going to be a higher interest rate than the high yield savings or the just a standard savings account. Your standard savings account, money market accounts are typically below 1%. A lot of times they're below even a half of 1%. So with inflation at 2.5%, 3% lately, you're losing money on the money that's in those accounts. But you need to have a 6-month savings. So how do you make sure that you're not losing money to inflation, but that you have a 6-month savings? And that's where the CD laddering goes. And the reason it's called laddering is you want to think of it like a ladder. And at each rung of the ladder another CD is going to come due. And what this does is if you buy, and we'll just, for simple terms, I'll explain how you would go into the buying process. But if you have six month CDs, you're going to have one CD coming due every month. But you'll have a fully funded 6-month savings account because you'll have 6 of these, 1 month each of value. So altogether, your CDs will add up to your 6-month savings. But like we said, you're getting better interest rate than a money market or a high yield savings typically. So you're getting a higher interest rate than what the current market's giving you. So you're beating inflation, maybe not by much, but you are beating inflation. So the money is still staying there. And then every single month, you're able to determine, do I need this money? Yes or no? The answer is no, which most likely the answer will be no. Then you just go and buy another 6-month CD.
If you want to do this, just 2 questions. So you just walk into a bank and like you can buy them there. And what is the rate of return usually?
So you would go into a bank, you would, talk to the banker, tell them that you want to open a CD. You're typically not going to, you might tell the teller that you're looking to open a CD and you're looking to get information on that. They're typically going to move you over to, a branch manager or somebody in one of the offices. It's not something you're going to do right there with the teller, because it is a specialized product and there's conversations that need to happen with it. The CD rates right now, I'm just going to pull them up quick. Again, the CD rates are always going to fluctuate based on prime rate and what's going on in the market. But CDs right now are anywhere from 3.5% to 5%, depending on the length of term. So we're talking about a 6-month, which is a shorter term length, versus a 10-month, a 1-year, 2-year, and so on and so forth. But I'll get into why the interest rates don't actually matter that much. But for building the process here, each rung of the ladder is that dollar amount. The reason I do 6 months with my clients instead of using like a 12-month CD is if you have an emergency account that is funded for 12 months of funding, then you would use 12-month CDs. But if you only have 6 months of funding, or you're between 6 months and 12 months, then you'll divvy that up into 6 chunks and have 6-month CDs. And the reason being is that you're going to have, however long the term is, that's how many CDs you're going to have, because it's going to end up coming due every 6 months or every 12 months. And in order for you to have monthly income, which again, the primary concern that we're addressing here is not knowing how to turn a lump sum of cash into an income stream. This allows us to turn it into an income stream automatically without having to think about it other than the initial setup period. So by doing this, you have monthly income out of that. And every single month around the same time, you're making that decision. Do I need money right now for an emergency or not? Yes or no. You say no, then you just go and buy another 6-month CD. At this point, you have a good relationship with your banker. Your banker is going to call you every 6 months and just say, are we buying another one or what are we doing? Now, you don't have to think about interest rates. And the reason you don't have to think about interest rates is this isn't one of your primary investment vehicles for your retirement. This is your emergency account. This is money that we have set aside. We know that we're not being super aggressive with it. We're actually being super conservative with it because we need this money here in case of emergency. This is our rainy day fund. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that our rainy day fund isn't losing money due to inflation. It's keeping pace with it. By buying CDs and what drives the CD rates, inflation has a large playing factor in that. And so typically it's very rare for a CD rate to be lower than, so it's typically very rare for a CD rate to be lower than the rate for inflation. Typically CDs, even at 6-month CDs, will beat the inflation rate. And so we're at least beating inflation. We're making sure that our nest egg is maintaining its asset growth and asset value, but we're not being super aggressive with this. So the interest rate doesn't matter as long as the interest rate's above inflation. What drives CD rates is partially inflation. And so that rate is typically always going to be above that. So we don't have to have the conversation with the banker saying, oh, what are the rates? What are this? The banker's going to have to tell you because of legislation and what they have to say. But you don't have to worry about that in your decision-making process, because where we're actually worried about rates of return and growing our money is in separate vehicles where we'll have that conversation. This is just the rainy day fund that we're talking about.
Okay. So the only other thing that I was a little unclear on, so am I buying 6 individual 6-month ones so they come up on each month?
So what you're going to do is, and this is where you get into the buying piece, is you're going to buy these over the course of 3 months. And what you're going to do is the first month when we start setting this up, and this is where you'll typically work with somebody. You can do it on your own, and I'm going to give you the whole layout on how to do that. But you'll typically work with somebody who knows how to do this to explain it to you. But if you want to do it yourself, this is how you would do it. The first month that you start, and for easy sake, we'll just call this January. So January is when you're starting. You figure out what your 6-month savings is and what your 6-month savings requirements are. So if if you live after tax dollars off of, say, $5,000 a month, your 6-month savings needs to be $30,000. It's that $5,000 a month times 6 months gives you $30,000, which means you have 6 $5 chunks of money. And that's what we're going to go and buy the CDs with. Because that's, you're basically just taking the calculation on what you need for 6 months and you're reversing it to then break it up so that it's now monthly income again. So in January, you're going to buy a 3-month CD for $5,000. And you're going to buy a 6-month CD for $5,000.
So you can't touch that money until the 3 months is up, right?
The 3 months and
the 3-month one. Yeah.
Right. The 3-month one you won't be able to touch for 3 months. 6-month one you won't be able to touch for 6 months. And again, this isn't a concern because every point of this ladder, you're going to have a full month's worth of money sitting aside. And because this is an emergency fund, this isn't for planning vacations. This isn't for, fun, exciting things. This is for the car broke down. I need this. I need that. And, breaking those pieces up. So in February, you're going to buy, again, a 3-month and a 6-month CD. So at this point, you will have purchased 4 $5,000 CDs. You have 2 3 months and 2 6 months. But, you're already a month into the ones that you bought in January. In March, you're going to do the same thing, a 3-month and a 6-month CD. And the reason we do the 3-month in here, we're going to get to the real punchline on this, but the reason we do the 3-month is so that we can get into this and get this set up as quickly as possible. Because now we're at month 4. And so in month 4, now we're only buying 6-month accounts. Because at this point, at the end of March, beginning of April, you've already taken your full 6-month account and you've put it into 6 different CDs. So now you have 6 $5,000 chunks of money. At this point, the CD you bought in January, that's a 3-month, has come due, and your banker's calling you, hey, what are we doing with this 3-month CD that just came due? And you're going to tell them, from this point forward, we're going to buy 6-month CDs. Because now you buy the CD, you take the 3-month that came due, you buy the 6-monther in April. Now in May, your 3-monther that you bought in February comes due, and you buy a 6-monther.
Yep.
In June, the 3-monther that you bought in March comes due, and you buy a 6-monther. And then July, you're going to take your 6-monther from January.
Yep.
And buy a 6-monther. And now at this point, come July, you have a 6-month CD coming due every 6 months. And you just continue to buy a 6-month CD every month. Every month, you're going to have one CD come due, and you're going to buy another 6-month CD. What this allows you to do is you're slowly building that account with the rate of inflation. And if you want to increase the amount of money in the account, or you have a surplus in your budget that you want to put, maybe you got a raise at work, and now you're making another $5,000 a year. $5,000 divided by 6 brings you into, I think that's $450, I believe. So now that means, or divided by 12, you would do $5,000 divided by 12. It's $250 a month times 6. That gets you $13,500. So now you need to increase your 6-month savings by that. but you're not going to just be able to do that in one lump sum. So you'll take each month when the 6-month CD comes due, that increase in income, you'll just put that for 6 months, your first 6 months, that increase in income, just put that into the CD and add it to the value when you buy the new CD.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after 6 months, you can actually take and enjoy your raise that you received, because now you've put away 6 months savings for it, and you've prepared yourself so that you can live the same lifestyle if you lose your job in the future, because you've already set yourself up for it. And every single month, you have the option of either just buying another CD, or if you have an emergency that has come up, you can say, okay, I have an emergency. Let me take some money out of the CD. And then your goal is that in 6 months, you will have paid yourself back for whatever that emergency was, and then be able to put that money back into the CD. The CD comes due.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have a 6-month savings that isn't just sitting there as one large sum that is tempting to just dip into and borrow against and pay it back later, which you'll never do. You have it there and it's coming due just like regular monthly income. And you're just making the decision once on, do I touch it or do I not, once a month.
So that's kind of the advantage, I guess, over the high yield saving account, is it's not as tempting. Just take it out whenever.
Correct. It's not as liquid, so it's not as tempting. It has the right amount of liquidity because it's a 6-month savings and you're breaking it up into monthly income. So you have the right amount of liquidity there. At any given point, if the day you decide, okay, I'm going to buy this 6-month CD, I don't need the money, and the next day you end up in a car accident and your car's totaled, the most amount of time that you're going to be waiting is 30 days to get that money. Mm-hmm. Most emergencies you can last 30 days on. Most. And so, there's the nuanced scenarios where you can't last 30 days. And what I would tell you is, if you listen to some of our other podcasts where we talk about, emergency credit cards and that sort of stuff, if you have an emergency credit card, you can put the emergency onto the emergency credit card, get the points for that. And then when the 6-month CD comes due, you then take that money and pay off the 6 months. You pay off the emergency credit card. And at this point, you've not caused any interest on your credit card. You're not paying any interest there because you're just paying it off within the statement period. And you've now made it so that you're perfectly okay. You've taken care of the emergency. You've paid it off. And then in 6 months, hopefully you'll be able to pay back yourself and bring that CD back up to its full appropriate value.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my other questions. So, and I was thinking you'd probably use a credit card because that would buy you 30 days.
Right.
And then
that's why the ladder works, is if you have the emergency credit card, you have the 30-day wait period, and you have a CD coming due in 30 days. So, and that is in the scenario where you have the accident. It's like worst case scenario. That's the accident happens the day after you decided to put the money back into the CD.
Yeah. I would imagine there's probably rarely emergencies that would exceed a full month's pay, because you would obviously have health care, hopefully. And if you lose your job, it's just a month. So I guess that's my question. Because if say your emergency was like 2 months pay, but that's probably rare.
Well, even if your emergency is 2 months pay, it's because you lost your job and you've lost your income.
Right.
Because you got to remember, you're still bringing in your monthly income. So as long as you're living within your means, your emergency, in order for it to be over a month expense, would have to be a scenario where you lost your job.
And if you lost it from a car accident, you're on disability. So you should be
right. You're on. Well, if you have disability insurance.
Yeah. You'd have to
have been in a car accident while working in order for you to be on workers' comp or your work's disability policy. So you'd have to have disability insurance for that. But most of those scenarios, it's going to be a case of you lost your income. That's going to put you into the multi-month scenario. But again, because of the way this is structured, you're going to get that paycheck.
Yeah.
Because that CD is going to come due, and you're just going to take that money and then let it roll and continue to roll the money that way.
Nice. That makes sense. And I imagine, like you said at the beginning, the very important part is you lose your job, you're getting that monthly income. You better be finding a new job pretty soon.
Right. And what this does is it forces you into just having the same level of monthly income that you had while you were working. So you're not going to be tempted to say, oh, I finally have some free time on my hands. Let me go do something I normally wouldn't do.
Yeah.
It allows you to, have that consistency that then when you go and get the new job, then you can take from that income stream the ability to replenish. But also, if you're tempted to have a vacation or something, get the job, use the income stream to pay for the vacation. Don't use your retirement account or your not retirement account, your 6-month savings account, your emergency fund, your rainy day fund in order to fund those things, because that's just going to put you in a world of hurt in the event that you have emergencies in the future.
Right. Yeah, that's a cool option other than a high yield saving account that I didn't know about. Anything else you have on it?
No, I mean, the main reason to do this over a high yield savings is you're locking in the rate for a longer period than a high yield savings is. So potentially you could end up with a higher rate when rates come down. But the primary reason, because again, you really shouldn't be worried about rates in this situation. The rate isn't the concern. The financial consistency is the concern here. And so this is just a reason to put it there, allow it so you only have to make a decision once a month about it. It turns into income if you need it. And you're beating inflation every single time.
Nice.
So that about wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to our podcast.
We hope this helps you on your balance freedom journey.
Please share your thoughts in the comments section below.
Until next time, stay balanced.